when we talked about the houses, and you thought that in here the attraction is to new, um, in comparison to old. So would you be able to perhaps tell me a bit more about that?
I think that, you know, with sort of whole idea of globalization and the influx of media, both Indian and
Yeah.
foreign, in the smaller cities and towns,
Mm-hmm.
there's this aspirational quality that's coming about, you know. It's like, if you look at what I'm wearing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, perhaps about a decade ago I would have worn traditional clothes, which would be far more comfortable in
Yeah.
this climate. But I'm wearing pants from Zara, a scarf from Mango,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm telling myself, why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's there, it's convenient, it's fashionable, and everybody's doing it. So you need to belong at some place, some point, right?
Okay.
So in that sense, the television, the mobile phone, the advertisements on the television, the SMS marketing that goes on, creates a sense of urgency and anxiety about owning, not owning. And I think we forget then to take into cognizance what we already own,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and what the value of that is,
Yeah.
whether it's tangible or intangible. And I think that's part of the problem,
Mm-hmm.
because the progress that's happening is just too sudden for people to take in and
Yep.
process and respond to in a sustained manner. It's not a sustained growth. It's not a thought out, planned growth. It's
Yeah.
kind of imposed on something. It's not organic.
Mm.
Like a really trivial example would be that even a westernized city like Bombay, we've had flyovers come in
Mm-hmm.
way too late. So as a result, people who live on either side of the flyover suddenly have all these cars whizzing past under their window.
Yeah.
You know, it's just something that speaks about planning and about forecasting in a sense.
Yeah.
So in the absence of forecasts like that, change is going to be fractured and split, and people are going to have to deal with things in the best way they can.
Yeah.
And often it's a mess.
Mm.
So in terms of value, I think it's not being able to weigh the two, you know, at what cost progress.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the crux of the issue.
Yeah. Okay, it's kind of interesting to get your opinion on that, obviously. The other interesting thing that I managed to find out is that it is actually Mumbai which has the most expensive residential property in the entire world.
Well, Bombay is a bit like Hong Kong, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody wants to be in South Bombay, everybody wants to be in a certain area,
Yeah.
and the real estate prices there are just going higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
And the city is growing and growing and growing because it's a strip north to south,
Yeah.
and the northern boundaries are being pushed as much as they can because they're not reclaiming any more from the south, from the sea.
Yeah.
It's like a time bomb, actually. You know, the infrastructure is really collapsing at every level. Measure of it is the road rage on a Monday morning.
Yeah.
Because there are that many cars that are coming in every single day.
The amount of traffic, I mean, I thought that London was big, but Mumbai is 3 times the size.
Yeah, and you know, this is what I mean, that whether it's London or New York,
Yeah.
you may probably have perhaps an equal number of people in certain localities.
Yeah.
But because there's a certain order and there are certain systems in place,
Mm-hmm.
everything is far more fluid.
Yeah.
We have a systems breakdown and nobody's acknowledging that. This is not about panning India. I love India, I love Bombay, I love Ahmedabad.
Yeah.
But there are serious issues vis-a-vis planning and maintenance. And if we don't look after our own, we're really going to be in trouble. I mean, we're deep shit anyway. So. It's really true. I mean, look at the sanitation. Bombay smells, everything smells.
I don't think it's actually as bad as some parts of Delhi, to be honest with you.
Really? Okay. Well,
I mean, we went to Old Delhi, and that was like being taken back in time. I was actually needing to pinch myself, thinking, is this for real, or this is just a surreal experience? It was incredible. It was like seriously being taken back in time.
yeah, and I think that you sort of nailed it, because
Yeah.
we're in a time war. Because on the one hand, you see this sort of cutting edge,
Yeah.
super hyper, you know, contemporary.
I think the
Expression.
contrast is even bigger in Mumbai
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you can see like people living in the slums literally next to a very tall new build. How come, you know, these people are still there next to that
Yeah.
building? So that's what I found quite surprising.
Well, it sort of exists everywhere in this compound itself. There used to
Yeah.
be 3 or 4 textile mills, which are now very hip nightclubs and restaurants,
Yeah.
and the gallery is here. And just walk outside, and there's a fish market, and
Yeah.
there are slums
Yeah.
everywhere. So, in the night we have all the Jags and the Lamborghinis driving into this compound, and the road is completely uneven,
Mm.
and there's a traffic jam all the time. So,
So this is Mumbai, yeah?
well, this is Mumbai, this is India, this is the way we live, and
Yeah.
either you accept it or you drop it, because there's no way of fighting the system.
Mm.
You know, change would happen. I mean, change always happens,
Yeah.
but it's going to take its own time till we all wake up
Yeah.
and smell the coffee.
No, the interesting thing was because obviously I'm doing a research on Mahatma Gandhi, and I've been to all the places in Delhi, Ahmedabad, and also here in Mumbai, and it's kind of interesting the message he had for Indian people decades and decades ago, the sort of the simplicity and cleanliness and all of that. It's kind of interesting that perhaps you know that the message is still there.
Well, you know, people claim to be Gandhians, but I don't know what it really means in today's times, because it's
Things
difficult.
have changed dramatically for India, yeah.
And I think the pressures are too high, you know, to sort of work with that sort of ideology.
Yeah.
The pressures are just too high. The ordinary man in India, it's hard to get 2 things done, you know, in a day,
Yeah.
because you're having to struggle for cooking gas, you're going to have to struggle for electricity, for water, for
Yeah.
sanitation.
Yeah.
It's like you come into the city as a migrant and you need something, you have to pay for it, or it
Yeah.
doesn't happen.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. I salute the people who still live as Gandhians today. And there are.
Yeah. Okay. So the basic challenge is sort of basics and then beyond basics, so the basic comforts, and obviously once people have that in place, then they can start creating. So
Which is what I sometimes feel, that it sounds very anti the West, but I think that because there's a certain standard of living that the state ensures, that one even has the liberty to think about things.
yeah.
You know, I mean, if I don't have 2 square meals, where am I going to sit and talk about heritage and traffic management?
Yeah.
My focus is going to be those 2 square meals.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that a lot of Westerners overlook about contemporary India. Contemporary India is not just the 25 people who are able to, you know, talk about art, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But there's a whole other reality of people who are living lives that are middle class and lower middle class, and their only issue is sustenance.
This actually reminds me an interview. Well, I've done an interview with an African artist called Aisha Fafana. He struggled for 15 years living a very sort of basic life within a compound with other co-wives and children, and she couldn't express herself artistically. Then she found a way to leave the country, and it was actually in the West that, you know, she discovered her artistic freedom and started creating, but it was impossible to do it in that environment. So yeah, so sometimes the change of environment might be necessary.
Well, I think you're just here as a sign from the universe to say, okay, pack up and leave.
And then revisit and do something about the country. Yeah.